So Turo just released some big updates for 2026. In this video, we're going to be going over what those updates are, what they actually mean for you as a host, how you can pivot around that and make it work in your favor and continue making as much money as possible. With this update, Turo seems to be pushing its focus on long-term rentals and lower risk rentals. What does Turo deem as a high risk rental? Turo sees last minute bookings as high risk. They're trying to discourage last minute bookings. They're trying to encourage bookings that are a few days out, if not weeks out. And they're also trying to encourage bookings that take place at places like the airport, things like that, because according to them, it is lower risk, right? My opinion on it is that this data is very skewed. Turo sees a lot more incidentals with last minute rentals, but Turo's majority of rentals are last minute rentals. In my opinion, that kind of skews the data a little bit. I have had bad experiences with last minute bookings. I've also had bad experiences with bookings that are a little more in advance and bookings that are long term. So it really doesn't matter. Of course, long-term bookings are a lot more beneficial just because there's a lot less workload. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And a lot of these long-term renters do take great care of the vehicles. The first thing that they're talking about in their new update is auto applying a 10% non-refundable discount. What does that mean? If a guest books a vehicle a certain amount of time in advance, they will automatically get a 10% non-refundable discount. This means obviously they'll get 10% off the booking rate. You're gonna lose 10% of your money, essentially, if this is not a discount that you rock with necessarily. The only good thing about it is that if they cancel, you will keep partial trip earnings. My opinion, I don't agree with the non-refundable discount. In theory, it is a good idea. I have never applied it on my own Turo account. I'm in a lot of Turo groups on Facebook, and I already knew this was going to happen just from the amount of rentals I've done on Turo. I've done thousands of Turo rentals. These non-refundable discounts, guests find a way around them. So guests come up with all kinds of excuses, and then Turo customer service ends up bending backwards. And a lot of the times, people will cancel and they will end up getting a refund. What you can do when it's automatically applied to your bookings going forward? Well, you can just raise your price by 10%. If Turo is going to be focusing on not last minute bookings, and bookings that are booked out in advance time, then you might as well raise the price 10% because your strategy has to now change with Turo's strategy. Otherwise, you may not see as much success. And if Turo really does deem these last minute bookings high risk, then maybe a price increase is called for. So what can you do about the 10% discount? Just raise your prices 10% right off the bat. Turo now is also going to be changing the share of what hosts receive and what Turo receives. Turo is saying that bookings that are short-term, last-minute bookings, they will be receiving a higher share of the rental. I'll be honest with you, I do not know exactly what they mean by this. It's not clearly laid out. I know that as a host, we pick our protection plan. You know, Turo will take a certain cut of our protection plan, we get the rest of the rental. I do think what Turo means is that they will raise prices on their end. The total that we as hosts see is always different from the total that the guest sees. I'm assuming what Turo means by this is that Turo will just charge a lot more fees on their end, so we will, in theory, receive a lower amount. Now, I do not know if they're going to be taking a higher cut from hosts. I would hope that if that was the case, that would be explained in the update that they just released, but who knows? With that theory going forward, my thoughts on this is that this is pretty unfair to hosts just because we are the ones actually taking the risk. I understand Turo has a protection plan and they are the ones paying in case of incidentals, but for a lot of incidentals, they do underpay. And we are the ones that have vehicles sitting in shops for extended periods of time. If your vehicle is financed, you might be underwater on your loan, so you're losing money if you're upside down. I think that this is pretty unfair to hosts. I guess Turo is trying to protect themselves, but I think that any last minute fees should be split evenly, right? That would make it a fair business transaction. Turo is also saying that trips that are booked further out in advance, that the hosts will keep more of those earnings. I guess in theory, they think this might be fair, and it is what it is. Our opinions don't matter. Turo is a business. What can you do to protect yourself from changes that Turo is implementing? Well, you can align with these changes, and you can do your best to pivot around them. You can also go private. You can start your own rental car company and handle rentals your way, and you can take all the risks, but you can also make all the money. If this is something that you're interested in, you can apply for one-on-one coaching with the link in the description below. This is something that I offer, and this is something that I coach. I did over $1 million annually, with 85% or so being private rentals. So I have a lot of experience in this field. I'm not discouraging you from Turo. I think Turo is a great platform. I think Turo is a really great platform for getting started. I still think you can build a sustainable business on Turo. Just know that you're relying on Turo's success. You definitely don't want to be in a position where your business is relying on someone else's business. You want to take full control. If pivoting into private rentals is something you've been thinking about, please don't hesitate to apply. We'll see if you're a good fit for the program. Getting back to the topic, Turo is a great business. I think you can still, even from scratch, start and build a great business on there. You just have to pivot with the changes. I do think that these changes are negative. Overall, for hosts, it is creating an opportunity. The opportunity is this is going to drive a lot of hosts out because people become so emotional that when Turo makes a change, they throw a fit, right? And that, well, I'm going to get out of this because this isn't sustainable and yada, yada, yada. Just like in every business, in every industry, things are constantly evolving and constantly changing. So if you're not willing to adapt to those changes, you may just choose to go out of business, or you may be forced out of business. This is going to create a really big opportunity because I think Turo is eventually trying to drive out a lot of hosts that just don't care about the platform. They don't care about rentals. They want people with larger fleets that bring their full focus to Turo and to the car rental business. If you're a business-driven person and you're actually trying to scale a fleet, I think that these changes could be beneficial as long as you go into these changes with the right strategy. The next change that Turo seems to be bringing is standardized minimum discounts. So for their 3-day rentals, week-long rentals, 2-week, 30-day rentals, they're going to have a minimum discount amount that are automatically going to be applied to your trip, similar to the 10% of the non-refundable trip discount. What does that mean? A lot of hosts are getting upset because they're losing control over pricing. Until Turo actually controls your pricing for good, you're still in control. Keep your discounts in mind and just raise your daily rate. What this is going to do is it's going to make it more worthwhile for short-term rentals because you'll be getting a higher rate. It's also going to make it worthwhile for your longer-term rentals just because they're going to apply those discounts and you're going to have a higher rate. And so by the time those discounts kick in, you're going to be in a good position, making a good amount of money. The only benefit to these discounts is that the mileage will change. So instead of getting 200 miles a day on short-term rentals, which over time will kill you on depreciation and maintenance, they're going to be reducing mileage, which they've already done for these longer term bookings, and that can be beneficial. And it's actually a great way to make money because some people go into these bookings expecting that they're not going to be driving a lot, and they end up driving a lot, so you get to charge a lot for over mileage. With Turo's goal in mind, and from my experience, longer term rentals generally are a lot easier to deal with, and it makes your fleet just that much more scalable if you purchase the right vehicles and use the right strategies. Turo is also reducing their protection plans. It went from 5 protection plans, they're now going to be going to 3 protection plans. The protection plans, they're dropping a couple of them off, and generally they are raising the deductible. This is not beneficial for hosts, but you have to understand where they're coming from. Insurance rates have gone up. A lot of insurance carriers are raising premiums. Turo is essentially doing the same thing. I always go with the 90 plan. The 90 plan is already a $2,500 deductible. They're adding $250 on top of that, so it's going to be $2,750 deductible. From having done my math and having done somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000 to $700,000 on Turo alone in rentals, I will tell you that the 90 plan for the vehicles that I'm running is definitely a lot more beneficial and keeps a lot more money in my pocket. To me, this is not a huge deal, but to a lot of hosts that are on the lower protection plans, this might burn their pocket. All the feedback I've seen on these changes that they're going to be introducing is 95% negative, as have been all of Turo's implementations over time. Turo used to be a lot different. It used to be a commercial host on Turo, to where all they did was bring you the lead. You would verify the client's insurance. You would put them under your rental agreement, and they literally just took a 7.5% cut for providing you the lead. You handled everything else, and they offered no protection to you. Turo has obviously changed. Turo is now becoming more of a competitive company. They're trying to compete against rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft, and with self-driving services like Waymo and other things coming out, they're trying to keep a competitive edge. Only way that you can really pivot is Just like any other business, you pivot with Turo or you pivot without Turo or a hybrid. I prefer to have private rentals in my back pocket. Having scaled to over 7 figures a year doing private rentals, I have a lot of experience in the field. So again, if that's something you want to get into and you want one-on-one mentorship, you can apply to work with me in the description below. I am only taking a certain amount of students because I do coach them one-on-one at all times. I do think that there is a golden opportunity for Turo here. A lot of hosts are going to be quitting or they're going to be driven out of the business. So I do think for newcomers, you have to be very savvy in the way you purchase vehicles, in the way you run your operations, your systems, how you handle damage claims, and so on. As long as you're being strategic with these strategies, I think that you still have a very good chance within Turo. I'm seeing a lot of hosts drop off. In the Turo groups that I'm in, I'm seeing a lot of hosts losing a lot of money. I'm seeing them going out of business. However, I just restarted my Turo account since separating from my previous business partnership and getting bought out by my business partner. That is a story for another video that I'm happy to share. But with that said, since doing that, I have restarted a new Turo account where I only had 4 vehicles. Now I'm up to 9 vehicles. For the most part, I'm staying fully booked. My profits are going up month after month, and I'm still scaling the fleet. Newcomers can do the same thing. I like to use a consignment model for my business. I also do purchase some vehicles as long as they are the right purchasing decision. Turo is still a great business to get into in 2026. As long as you have the right guidance and the right mindset, you can still build a full-time business just on Turo alone. When it comes to the car rental industry is expected to double in growth over the next 5 years. That's huge because it's going to be going from around $100 billion industry to a $200 billion industry. If you put those in perspective to how long the car rental industry has been around, there's really a golden opportunity here that I don't think we're going to see for a very long time. In regards to Turo, private rentals, and both, there's massive opportunities in the business. If this is something you want to get into, now is definitely the time. I know this was a short video. I just wanted to go over the Turo changes and what they mean for hosts and my opinion on them, as having been a Turo host that has done many hundreds of thousands of dollars on Turo. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, and comment with any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, you can go click through my YouTube channel and check out my other videos in regards to car rentals. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in my next video.